UFC 305, it was certainly a roller coaster to say the least. I think at this point in my life, I've got to admit that I was a little too on the Steve Ercik hype train. I think Steve Ercik, look, he's the kind of figure, he is the kind of fighter that you are going to get behind. I mean, it's just that simple. You look at the guy, you look at how unassuming he is, you look at how skinny his neck is, he looks like a Pixar character, but when he goes out there, he has such clean combinations, he is so accurate, he's so high level, and I was all in. I would have followed this guy off a cliff, and it's just that simple. And, it all accumulated into the parlay I had going last night was to fix my teeth. If that parlay hit, I was going to get two brand new teeth permanently placed in my mouth, and we hit every single fight except the Steve Ercik one. And looking back now in hindsight, I was just mesmerized. I was mesmerized by the guy. I was just, I was lost. I was lost in it. I think how handsome he is. I think his skill set. I think all of it was enough to say, I believe in you no matter what the circumstances were. And it came back to bite me. And that is why it is so dangerous to truly fall in love with a fighter like I had with Steve. But, it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad because Dricus Du Plessis defeated Israel Adesanya by a rear naked choke. And look, I'll tell you, going into this fight, there were two things that I was certain of. One is Dricus Du Plessis, he posed a lot of similar problems as Marvin Vettori did, except for the fact that he's far more explosive, far quicker, and just a way more skilled kickboxer. And the number two big thing going into that matchup that I knew was that Adesanya has a boxing problem. When I made my breakdown for this fight, I made it very clear, look, Israel Adesanya, he's capable of countering you if you just gift him something, but that is not his skill set. You go back and you look at the Marvin Vettori fight, you look at the Paulo Costa fight, Jared Cannonier, they were all the same. You got these guys marching Adesanya down, looking to enter into range with strikes, and Adesanya was not slipping and ripping. He was just leaning back, circling back to the center of the ring, and then he would reset and then go back to jabbing and leg kicking these guys. And I said, look, when Dricus explodes into range with punches, that is what Adesanya is going to do, and it's up to Dricus to capitalize on it. And I don't want to point any fingers, I don't want to name any names, but a lot of people laughed at me for saying that. A lot of people they couldn't believe it. They were like, no, Adesanya's a counter striker. No, I can't take this seriously. You're wrong. You're dead wrong. And look, it's exactly what we saw last night. Dricus explodes into range. Adesanya is attempting to lean back, slide away, but Dricus was catching him at the end of these punches, which is something, like I said, Vettori, Costa, these guys, they just couldn't do because they weren't as quick, they weren't as fast, and Dricus, again, he fights like a gorilla on rollerblades. That is a dangerous combination because getting hit by him, it has dire consequences. See, Dricus, without any attributes, without any power, this style just wouldn't work at all. But when he rushes at you and you don't know when he's going to mix in the takedowns, you don't know when he's going to rip to the body or end the combination with a kick, and you just don't know what's coming, it's an extremely difficult problem to deal with. But, of course, the other thing that I was very sure of in this matchup was that on the outside, at range, Adesanya was going to have a massive advantage. And one big element, one big game plan choice he brought to this fight that was very, very smart and it was paying off was the body shots. See, Adesanya, in preparation for this fight, had been working on his boxing extensively. He was putting out a lot of training footage of him just doing pure boxing, and I think it really showed. Again, he still was not finding the clean counters to Dricus' entries, but at range, he was throwing very good combinations, very good uppercuts, and he was ripping to the body a lot. Now, anybody who has never been hit in the body many, many times in succession, they'll have no idea that it just zaps your cardio. It's brutal. It melts it. Absolutely melts your cardio. And Dricus, he seemed very fatigued, very gassed by round 3. And this really was not helped by the fact that Dricus, he was lunging in, Adesanya was leaning back, and Dricus was not following it up with anything. See, in those moments, he had to chain different attacks. As soon as Adesanya leans back, that's when you gotta shoot. That's when you gotta rip to the body. It is the perfect opportunity. And that was my one big stipulation for what Dricus needed to do to win this fight. Because, while, again, he was catching Adesanya at the end of some of these punches, it just wasn't doing as much as Adesanya was out in the open, ripping to the body, landing good combinations, good kicks from the outside. Dricus, he had to mix it up, and in my mind, he had to be shooting because, he was having a lot of success in the grappling when he was going for it. But there were moments where Adesanya was having amazing takedown defense, and I attribute it to the fact that he was getting underhooks, and I think that is the big difference maker in defending takedowns. There would be moments, again, against Marvin Vettori, where Adesanya would let him get to the legs or let him get to the clinch, but Dricus, he's just way too strong. The second he clinches up with you with underhooks, you're getting taken down immediately. And when Dricus would get to that position, that's exactly what happened. And when he got Izzy down, you can see how physically strong he was and just how good his grappling was. Someone like Marvin Vettori, going back to him, he was able to take Adesanya's back briefly, but, he wasn't able to hold on to it for long. He didn't do a great job of passing Adesanya's guard, and he just couldn't get a ton of work done from there other than just control time. Whereas Dricus, very good guard passing, devastating ground and pound. He was able to take Adesanya's back multiple times, and Adesanya, one of his elite skills is getting back to his feet. But when Dricus fought Sean Strickland, there were tons of moments where Strickland would get back up, Dricus would have his back standing, and he would just let it go. He would let Sean go and then fight back at range. But you can't give that to Adesanya, and he didn't. He held on to him the entire time. He made Adesanya fully have to disengage from the clinch after getting back up, which I think was very smart. But again, around round 3, round 4, Dricus, he really wasn't shooting. He wasn't following up his blitzes with anything, and Adesanya seemed like he was a step ahead everywhere until very quickly he wasn't, because like I said, getting hit by Dricus, it has dire consequences. And it all started with one big thudding shot Dricus landed right on the side of Adesanya's head. Adesanya, he had a good poker face in that moment, didn't seem wobbled, but that was the start where it all started going downhill. Then Dricus comes in with another blitz, lands. Adesanya's trying to evade, but this time Dricus chained in the wrestling with the blitz. He got Adesanya down, immediately took his back and just slapped that choke on. He had a fulcrum grip over Adesanya's face. And with how fucking strong Dricus is, with how much of a goddamn gorilla he is, it's going to be so hard to fight from that position. And Adesanya tapped. And now, honestly, the only thing I'm sitting here wondering at this point is how long is it going to take for the narrative to start coming around that, Adesanya's kind of washed. Adesanya's not where he used to be. I wonder what would happen if Adesanya fought Dricus in his prime. It's coming. But look, it has nothing to do with that. It just doesn't. Dricus, he posed very unique problems to Adesanya that he had just never faced before. Again, Marvin Vettori had a lot of moments against Adesanya in the wrestling, in the striking, and he is not even a tenth of what Dricus Du Plessis is in far of explosiveness and in far of just pure kickboxing skills. So it seems like now we've got Sean Strickland versus Dricus coming up next, which, look, I guess that's all right. The last fight was certainly very, very close. And, in theory, I would say Strickland could make some tweaks to win that fight. But to me, somebody who's going to beat Dricus Du Plessis is somebody who just simply has power. Somebody who can time a clean shot and really put him out. That's going to be the big difference maker. Because Dricus, he's so dangerous offensively and he's very, very durable. If you don't have any ability to finish him, it's going to be hard to survive a full 5 rounds against him because he's very well-rounded. He's very strong in the grappling. Again, we need somebody who's going to step in and just sting him with a clean shot and really wobble him. And honestly, that's going to be Alex Pereira.